It's Monday. You know what that means. Jersey First TV proudly brings to you the latest edition of Real Talk. And certainly I am New Jersey's premier award-winning journalist, Top 50 Latino, as voted on by the Latino Spirit Online magazine, along with the United States Latino Affairs Initiative. And without a doubt, I'll continue to be the weapon of mass disruption in Garden State media because my level of honesty is necessary in this era of deception. It's me, Fernando Uribe. Happy Monday, ladies and gentlemen, here as you're joining us on the 12th of February in 2024. And once again, I want to thank you all for tuning in from wherever and however you may be doing so right now on Facebook Live via StreamYard, also on the Jersey First YouTube page, and of course, also on LinkedIn, on Twitch, and all of our other social media platforms. Folks, again, I cannot say enough how grateful we are here at Jersey First that you continue to follow us and like us, of course. If you haven't done so already on Facebook, like Jersey First TV, we ask of you please, along with Real Talk with Fernando Uribe. And again, if you follow us on Instagram and Twitter, we appreciate that. And if you don't, take a moment, click that follow button, and we appreciate that as well. And for all you, YouTube subscribers, and I know you watch YouTube every day. I know I do, especially after the Super Bowl yesterday. I mean, obviously we're watching all the trailers, Deadpool, Wolverine, all the sort of other great commercials, the Stand Up to Jewish Hate commercial, which actually, one of my favorites last night. Certainly, folks, if you're on YouTube, click the subscribe button on the Jersey First page. And of course, you'll be notified of all of our great content brought to you every single week online. Of course, you'll be notified about it. And of course, sharing is caring. We do appreciate you doing that every single week. And of course, whether you get your podcast on Spotify or SoundCloud, download Jersey First and take it with you wherever and whenever you're traveling, whether you're traveling, let's say, to meet a boyfriend, girlfriend, in-laws, going to study on campus, doing errands, whatever it is you're doing, folks, maybe getting ready for baseball season, right? You have your smartphone with you, probably a tablet, iPad, whatever it is. Take Jersey First with you. You definitely won't regret it. And I can't say enough how proud I am to be on the dream team of Garden State Media, folks. That's right. It is always Jersey First TV. Certainly brand new episodes of the Nader Narrative premiere every Thursday. Of course, all the aforementioned social media platforms, hosted by the incredible Elizabeth Nader, a very dear friend of mine, outstanding woman in journalism here in the Garden State. Definitely always want to check out the Nader Narrative every Thursday, folks. And of course, Bridging the Gap every Thursday as well. Premieres courtesy of AJ Malillo and Steven Rombolo, my two favorite law students. And certainly, guys, keep chugging along. Get those law degrees. Certainly, we're very proud of you here at Jersey First. And of course, every Monday night, live at 6 or 7 p.m. Eastern time. Again, check your local listings. You can always tune in for the latest edition of Real Talk with Fernando Uribe. Folks, you definitely want to stick around for final thoughts because I'm going to have a lot to say about the Salty Four in Hudson County. And well, they're kind of scattered around, like Florida, everywhere else. They're scattered around New Jersey. They're like cockroaches, folks. Like they're scattered everywhere. It seems like you can't really get rid of them. You can try to fumigate them and, ignore them or dispose of them, but they just sort of keep reproducing. That's sort of the first thing that comes to mind when I think of the Salty Four. Of course, Ernesto Rivera Batiste, Joe Blaitler, John Hughes, and of course, Leonard Flipowski. I have more to say about the Salty Four and these four clowns later during Final Thoughts. You definitely want to stick around for that one, folks. Trust me. The last one got you laughing. This one will definitely get you laughing a hell of a lot more. But first, ladies and gentlemen, obviously what we like to do here on the show again is practice what's called good journalism. I know that many of my colleagues in the journalistic sort of atmosphere here in New Jersey don't know what that is, but here on the show, you can always rely on yours truly for exceptional journalism and, of course, exceptional and exclusive guests you don't really hear or see from anywhere, again, in sort of like the liberal establishment media here in the Garden State, but here on Jersey First, folks, you'll get them week in and week out. This week is no exception. Joining us live here tonight, he is the distinguished chairman of the Rutgers College Republicans, my alma mater. Actually, I was a board member too back in the day, folks. He is the Honorable Jeremy Lee, joins us here on Real Talk. Jeremy, how are you?
I'm doing great, Fernando. Thanks for asking.
Appreciate it, man. Happy New Year. I haven't talked to you since last summer, and a lot to really dissect into about what's going on. And folks, again, click that share button. Sharing is caring. Takes 2 seconds to let everybody know how much you enjoy Real Talk right here with Jersey First TV. Jeremy, it's an election year, a lot to talk about. Obviously, we'll get to what goes on later this November. But here in New Jersey, though, man, I'll tell you, there's a Senate race that's getting a lot of attention, obviously, over the weekend in Monmouth County. Democrats had a lot to say about who they want on the line there. Republicans, to no surprise, are so disorganized across state lines. I go after them all the time. I mean, the NJGOP is about as organized as the New York Mets in October, so that's not saying much. But in any event, it's tough days to be a Republican for sure and a conservative. But on the campus of my alma mater, the State University, it seems like being a conservative and a Republican is, I would say, it's more difficult now than it's ever been. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, 100%. Like you mentioned, it's definitely a really big election year. We just went through a big election year last year in 2023. Big surprises to the downside for Republicans. But in terms of what I'm seeing on campus, we've been seeing a lot of pro-Palestinian, more specifically pro-Hamas sentiment, which makes absolutely no sense, right? I mean, literally terrorists are attacking Israel, and now people are blaming Israel for, I don't know what, attacking themselves. So you're seeing sort of delusional, emotions and sort of demonstrations on campus for things that just don't make any sense. And it just really highlights the fact that this leftist movement that's really taken over and an enormous part of the Rutgers community has just been just awful. And it's really disappointing to see that right now today.
Listen, I'm with you, man. And I'm one of those very few people in journalism actually calling out what these people are in our college campuses. And they're jihadists. I'll call them that. Some people disagree with me. I don't really care. But the facts are on my side. These are jihadists, folks. Okay, these are students. And in many cases, a large amount of faculty, right, tenured faculty that have made a point to marginalize Jewish students, Jewish people on campuses, in the name of what? And you know what's really funny to me? It's always the LGBTQ, like liberals and Dems on campus that are so pro-Palestine. Folks, you'd get murdered if you lived anywhere near Palestine, if you were gay, lesbian, or whatever. And it's always funny to me. It's like people like that are the first ones out and about, cheering for Gaza, cheering for Palestine, saying how marginalized it is. And Jeremy, I got to tell you, bro, I'm not teaching a history course here. Okay, I do that separately. But it's funny to me that why are so many people on the wrong side of this debate, though, Jeremy? Because it just seems like, for whatever reason, again, in faculty, what's even more egregious is, an 19-year-old kid, hey, even though they've had a smartphone in their hand for a better part of half of their life already, it doesn't take much reading to learn that what's going on over there. And it just seems like even faculty are jumping in on this. Like faculty members are sort of openly applauding Hamas, openly applauding the fact that for some reason people think that the country of Israel, it's a country, folks, that it doesn't have a right to defend itself against aggression. But you say that to those on the left, you say it to academics, you say it to all these insufferable activists in New Jersey. It's almost like you stole like their PlayStation, their Xbox, and in some cases their newborn child. Jeremy, do us a favor here, bro. Let's separate fact from fiction. Can we do that?
Yeah, definitely. And like you just sort of mentioned here, like all these academics, and we're even seeing this across like a lot of professors, especially in like pretty much any department, really. Thankfully, I'm a business major, so it's not as big of a deal. But you're definitely seeing this isn't just a one person or two person or a professor, classroom being taught these ridiculous ideologies about how Hamas is in the right and somehow Israel is wrong. Like you just mentioned, there's a lot of delusion, right? It kind of reminds me of this meme that said, queers for Palestine. It's pretty much the same thing as like chicken for KFC, right?
Yeah.
This makes absolutely no sense. And like you just mentioned, it's the academics, it's the administrators, and it's the professors at all levels of university governance that are allowing this degradation in terms of social values and just basic common sense on campus.
And to say nothing of the fact, listen, I've had a bone to pick with Rutgers for a while now, going back to last summer. And it pains me because, again, I went there. I lived there in New Brunswick. I went to graduate school in Newark. I have multiple degrees. And from there, like, it pains me. I watch Rutgers basketball. Like, I'm one of those guys that gets aggravated when watching Rutgers basketball. Like, I like going to games. I like watching them. But it pains me when last summer, President Holloway continues to be tone deaf, along with the administration, and still mandating vaccines for students and faculty. And that just drove me crazy. Or even going back to the summer of 2020, which I'll give President Holloway credit, when in the height of COVID, you had all these idiots saying, well, we need to tear down statues. And remember that, remember the summer of love, right? Summer of 2020, people were glorifying a career criminal like George Floyd and everything. And hey, statues triggered us. Statues offended us. We need to remove statues. I don't even remember that, but what's on, in the target range was Colonel Henry Rutgers. And again, for people that aren't familiar, right, because maybe they don't know too much about the history of Rutgers University, it was originally Queens College in 1766. Okay, and I'm not reading this from a teleprompter, folks. This is all from memory as a proud alumnus. Okay, but Colonel Henry Rutgers was instrumental in helping General George Washington defeat the British Army at the Battle of the Raritan River. And therefore, obviously, that is the significance for renaming Queens College Rutgers College. And since then, it's held that name. And I remember during the summer of 2020, Jeremy, like activists were all offended about, you own slaves and this and that. No one's excusing slavery. But if you're going to tell me that in 1766, okay, that we're going to have the same mindset back then that we have today, that's just not realistic. Okay. I think I can separate some bad choices that the founding fathers and heroes of the American Revolution engaged in from what they mean to us, right? To, again, President Holloway, to his credit, didn't cave to those people, but he caved to vaccine mandates. And now he's caving to these student organizations, along with, the board of provosts, the deans there, that they should be harsher on these organizations, not just student organizations, but faculty ones too, glorifying what's going on in Palestine. You're seeing some of these marches on campuses. You're seeing posters being ripped down of people that are still missing, children as young as 2 months old. Like, it's mind-boggling to me that so many on the left just seem to be these jihadist apologists for what Gaza and Palestine ultimately represent. And again, you're there on campus, brother. I mean, how stressful is it for some of your classmates, again, who are Jewish or not, or are seeing this nonsense?
I mean, for a lot of them, they're definitely feeling the pain of having to experience this sort of anti-Semitism. And talking a little bit about President Holloway specifically, this isn't just, he wasn't responsible for just, messing up the COVID-19 vaccine mandate, keeping it even today to this day, right? They basically kick out students who don't get it in the first place, which is nonsense. But he also helped usher in a lot of what I think are really negative reforms that cost Rutgers University, I mean, literally hundreds of millions of dollars. And one of the big things was divesting from oil. As you know, I think there was one alumni that was going to give a $50 million gift. It's all gone now because he's basically caving into the wokists on campus that wanted to do this and that. And the situation in Palestine, COVID-19 vaccines, and as I just said, the oil situation just really highlights the fact that, this is a president that's just going to cave into the leftist ideologies and the leftist woke people that are there on campus, just basically driving the entire narrative.
It really is unfortunate. And folks, if you're just joining us right now, it's 6:15 here on the East Coast. My guest tonight is the distinguished chairman of the Rutgers College Republicans, my alma mater. I know his soon to be. He is Jeremy Lee. Join us here on Real Talk. Jeremy, let's get back to let's get to election year stuff. We'll get back to Rutgers in a moment. I could talk about Rutgers all day, but let's get to the crux of what this year and what it means, man. I would argue that listen, I'm an old man compared to you, but I would venture to say that coming up this November, this is perhaps the most, and I know it gets this becomes almost hyperbolic for some people, but I mean it when I say it. I mean, this is perhaps the most consequential election of my lifetime. And what we're seeing right now in this country, okay, I'm not sure. I mean, I know you live on campus. I don't know where your hometown is, what county it is, but I live in Hudson County, and I'm hop, skip, and a jump away from Manhattan. I frequent Manhattan, not as much lately, obviously, because of what's going on, but what we're seeing in cities like Manhattan, dumps like Philadelphia, and others around the country, we're seeing really the chickens coming home to roost with a atrocious border policy or lack thereof, with this joke of a president, with this even bigger joke of a vice president, with leaders of the far left in both the House and Senate, they don't seem to really care about illegals coming and destroying our cities, eating up social services, taking away housing and other resources from, wait for it, Americans. And it's funny to me how people, and I listen, I get, and there's a lot to dislike sometimes personality wise about the 45th president. But last I remember, from 2017 to 2021, we weren't in any wars. We were prosperous along energy policies. There was criminal justice reform. We had a president who selected 3 outstanding jurists to serve in the Supreme Court, whose decisions lately in the last, I would say, 4 years have all been to my liking. And what was the alternative during COVID? A guy who never campaigned outside of his basement, a guy who clearly the special counsel, and it's funny when the left wants to talk about special counsel reports and what we should hold as scripture, right? In 2018, special counsel Robert Mueller's report, like that was almost like scripture. It's like, we need to follow this like the Bible. But last week's, when they made reference to the president of the United States being a mummy who's clearly demonstrating dementia, who's cognitively declining quicker than Tom Moran and Alan Steinberg, and that's saying something, because those 2 idiots are like 90 years old each, right? This is alarming to me, Jeremy, that there's even a discussion about what the choice is this November. And I get it that the 45th president, again, has some things that I question about his judgment, some things you have to call into account, certainly, but there's no arguing with policies, okay? No inflation, interest rates are not where they were 4 years ago. Food, transportation, border security. Again, Jeremy, take your pick. You may not like Donald Trump, but my God, how can anyone rationally and objectively like Joe Biden?
You're right. I also don't know why. But I think from my perspective as a youth voter, and from the perspectives of a lot of other youth voters, what I've been hearing from a lot of my friends is they're really concerned about the age that Joe Biden is at. He's 81. And as the special counsel report said, this is a guy who maybe he's nice, kind-hearted old man, but this is a man with terrible, poor memory. And obviously there's a really, really strong case that he can't even do anything without getting direct instructions on a piece of paper telling him to walk into a room, leave a room, blink. And people see that, people notice that. And, you can't just get away with something like that. And especially among young voters, they're really disappointed about the fact that Joe Biden just doesn't have the cognitive ability to be an effective president and an effective leader in today's society, especially in America today, given just the wide array of issues we've been facing over the last several years. And, as a result, I really think, definitely it's time to start voting for Donald Trump. And we need to kick out Joe Biden right away, because, we can't just let this man continue to do what he's doing. And I think that his cognitive decline is a threat to America. And I think that people, especially at a younger level, a younger age, are actually starting to recognize that right now.
And I think what's also alarming is, and again, it's hard to get a straight answer from a lot of far left Democrats that look at the Biden-Harris ticket, and you would think, well, hey, Biden's looking really awful. He's declining. You would think, though, again, Jeremy, this is history here. I mean, again, I feel like I'm teaching a history course again. But there's a reason when presidents select running mates that they feel confident, or the party itself would feel confident in who you have as a vice president. Okay, going back some time, John Kennedy looked at Lyndon Johnson and, again, didn't like each other. 2 very different guys, one from Texas, one from Massachusetts. But they found a way to coexist. And you knew that John Kennedy felt comfortable having Lyndon Johnson as a vice president. We all obviously, unfortunately, we got to see what that would manifest itself into in November of 1963. Fast forward some years, certainly if you remember during the primary, you weren't alive, and neither was I, but you go back and read in history books, Ronald Reagan and George H.W. Bush hated each other. They were at each other's throats, but they recognized that they were both competent at the time, and they made a good team, right? Folks, I mean, we look at Joe Biden today, and there's no confidence whatsoever in the cackling hyena that is Kamala Harris. And I don't want to hear this. And I hear it from all these insufferable feminists and cat ladies. Oh, it's the first woman vice president. I want to, first of all, it's clear, Jeremy, that they're giving law degrees away in California. Because when you have like simpletons like Kamala Harris and others, right, in the Democrat Party that are getting law degrees, it makes you wonder how easy is it to pass the LSAT and then to pass the bar exam? Because you have some people in Washington with law degrees that are alarming. And God forbid something happens to Joe Biden. We're stuck with Kamala Harris. That should scare every single person, my age, your age, whatever age. It should scare us half to death. And I don't know why that still is something that's not really hammered home. I mean, obviously the liberal media nationally isn't going to do its job. We know here in New Jersey, to your point about the special counsel saying, listen, he's a nice elderly man who, you know, it means well. You know who said that over the weekend too? I don't know if you read him. You know, if you ever need a cure for insomnia, read Tom Moran from the Star Ledger. But he said, oh, I'll take, you know, an elderly man with a tad bit of dementia. I mean, really? Talk about being blatantly dishonest over the alternative. Jeremy, that is the level of delusion that I think we're seeing with the Democrat Party nationally and in New Jersey. Where am I wrong, brother?
I don't think you're wrong at all. And, you know, like I just mentioned right now, even people that, you know, I personally consider to be relatively on the liberal side of things, even some close friends of mine, they've been actually realizing themselves right now, I think slowly over the last several years, that this is a president that just doesn't have that, like I mentioned, mental cognitive ability to be an effective leader, given the incredible challenges that we're facing as a nation, right? We're facing, you know, conflict in the Middle East, a conflict in, you know, Eastern Europe, between Ukraine and Russia. You know, we're facing inflation still. We're experiencing terrible issues happening at the border that have had reverberations across not just New York City or Texas, but even in my hometown, where there are train stations where buses are literally dropping off migrants, paying for tickets for them to go into New York City. I can't even commute back to New York City if I wanted to without, you know, dealing with those sort of situations. And as a result, you know, like you just mentioned, just Democrats have been relying on delusion and lying to the American people to push their agenda and to push the case for why they should be voted for in 2024. And I don't think they're going to make the case effectively enough to win. And, you know, hopefully Donald Trump does get elected if he wins the primary in 2024.
And listen, whoever he selects as a running mate, I mean, that's a point of concern for me as well. I mean, I'd like to see some diversity there. And not because I live in identity politics like the left does, but we have to try to fight them at their own game. It's as simple as that. And whether it's a woman, whether it's a minority of some kind, I think it would not kill Republicans in the sense of a makeover. Having someone, whether it's a woman again, Black, Hispanic, whatever, or a Black man, Hispanic man, you know, you name it, it wouldn't be the worst thing, I think, for Republicans on the national level. Here, though, statewide, though, Jeremy, and I really want to get your thoughts on this because I make it a habit of going after the NJGOP relentlessly. This is an organization that made some strides in 2021, winning 8 legislative seats, flipping a Senate seat that nobody thought was even possible at the time, with Senate President Steve Sweeney down in the 3rd legislative district. And my good friend Ed Durr did do that. And for whatever reason, the NJGOP and were just on the same page. And 2 years later, what did the NJGOP do? I mean, they basically, got to the goal line and fumbled it or got stopped at the one like the Philadelphia Eagles do consistently. And it's mind-boggling to me how there is no accountability with the NJGOP in a year where, Republicans have 3 congressional districts that have incumbents, and there are congressional districts in North Jersey, by me, that don't even have a Republican candidate on the ballot for the primary, much less for the general election. Listen, it's a family show. I'm going to try to keep it PG here. But what a bunch of incompetent imbeciles we have at the NJGOP. I mean, if you're a Republican and a conservative, you have to be, I think, as depressed as San Francisco 49er fans are today. With the awful performance I'm seeing in the New Jersey Republican Party. We saw it in 2018. We saw it in 2020, 2021, 2022, and now 2023. Jeremy, give me something to be optimistic about if you're a Republican or a conservative in New Jersey.
Yeah, definitely. Like as you know already, obviously, there's not a lot to be optimistic about. We lost a deep red assembly seat, Ned Thompson, down in South Jersey, two Democrats. We lost many important assembly seats. We lost Ed Durr, obviously, as you know, after his incredible win in 2021. But in terms of things that did go well, we saw that local issues matter to voters. We saw in Milburn Summit, we saw across the Raritan Valley line, a lot of what have been traditionally blue states over the last 1 or 2 decades actually vote for overwhelmingly for Republicans. Republicans are sweeping mayorships and various council seats across all of the counties.
That's right.
And you know what that tells me? It tells me, yes, we have a huge issue with vote by mail attrition among Republican voters. We don't have the vote by mail machine the Democrats do. We haven't invested enough in that, which I guess also shows a lot of the incompetence of the NJGOP right now. Like I said, there's a lot of chaos, right? They don't really know how to play the game. But I will say that the fact that we can focus on local issues and that we have a really great case for pushing local issues, like going against ridiculous developments, I think that's what's going to work in our favor going forward into the next couple of years. And we need to keep hammering and running on those issues, because ultimately it's these local races and then it's these local issues that are going to drive Republican performance over the next couple of years and decades.
Yeah, Jeremy, you hit it right on the nail right there. Folks, it's 6:27 here on the East Coast. If you're just joining us, click that share button. Sharing is caring here. As my guest tonight here on Real Talk is the chairman of the Rutgers College Republicans, Jeremy Lee. Join us here on Jersey First TV. Jeremy, let me just piggyback on what you just said there. Yeah, up here in northern Jersey, Bergen County nearby, Paramus, that municipal government turned red. We saw a lot of Board of Ed races go the way of my color jacket. I mean, it's interesting you said something really profound about vote by mail, where Republicans, again, at the state level, still are not embracing that. Here's a good example of a guy that is embracing what's available to him and making it work. Down in Cumberland County, a big fan of the show is State Senator Michael Testa. He's a state senator down in the 1st Legislative District. And he's a guy that, as the chair of Cumberland County, understood that it's a marathon, not a race. And what did he do over a few election cycles? He started vetting candidates. He started voter registrations. He did this over the course of a few years and a few cycles. And what happened? Now, again, it's Cumberland County. No one's saying that this is going to work in Hudson or Bergen or Passaic or wherever. But the point is that down in Cumberland County, he flipped the entire county commissioners. He retained his own chairmanship. He also was able to flip the county, the county sheriff down there, and get Republicans energized in Cumberland County by embracing vote by mail, by embracing early voting. Again, vote by mail isn't going anywhere. I know people are skeptical of it. I am too, obviously, from what we're learning, right? We're seeing people down in Atlantic City and other municipalities, subverting the system, cheating openly, right? All the things that we're worried about when it comes to vote by mail or early voting. Okay, we're seeing it manifest itself, but Republicans have to be smarter. And in 2021, I was the only journalist that called that race close. I said, Jack, as uninspiring as that campaign was, is going to make it close with the emperor. And he did. He lost by 3 points because the emperor did a piss poor job with COVID. He killed businesses. He murdered people. Let's be honest. There were people dying in nursing homes because of the emperor, okay, and his administration and his enablers, okay. And Jack was able to make a race of it. Jack still made way too many mistakes, again, vis-a-vis the NJGOP, and that was a race he could have won. But here's another number that should really piss you off as a chairman of a college Republican chapter. Only less than 50% of registered Republicans came out to vote. Okay, just like last November. Okay, I think around 39% of registered Republicans came out to vote in a year where Democrats were vulnerable. In a year where Democrats in Trenton, okay, are enabling the alphabet mob, are thinking that, in our schools, that curriculum should include, graphic content to kids as young as 5 years old, enabling illegals. Again, the wind was to their back, and Republicans still found a way in New Jersey, the leadership to F it up like a wet dream. And I think that this year, again, you got some House races that are competitive. You got some House races that incumbents need to win, obviously. But even like in municipal government, it just seems like Republicans are they're good at bitching and moaning, right? They're like Latina girlfriends. They're good at bitching and moaning. They're good at like nagging you, but they don't really want to do the work to get better. You see what I'm saying? And I think that that's the easiest way to describe the New Jersey Republican Party. They'd rather just be the minority and bitch and moan than actually do work, Jeremy. And case in point, yeah, we have this year coming up, but next year in 2025, I mean, we only have one declared candidate for governor, and that's a state senator, Jeremy, that has coddled Democrats in Trenton for years. And John Bramnick is a guy who thinks he can be governor. I wouldn't trust this guy to run my fantasy league.
I mean, you've mentioned a lot of different issues here, and sort of following up a little bit on just like some of the shortfalls of the New Jersey GOP. I mean, people are like, why did Republicans do so bad? Hypothetically, we should actually have done quite well in 2023, but the reality is, just from a technical standpoint, we just don't have that vote by mail breadth that the Democrats have. The Democrats have been able to get so many of their voters to every single year, not just even year, presidential year, odd years. Every single election, they've been able to put in their ballot and vote. So we've seen turnout among Democratic voters actually going up quite a bit. This has been a trend we've been seeing since Donald Trump was elected president in 2016, right? Especially in 2018 and 2020, 2021. And we're still seeing that right now in 2022, 2023, and going into 2024. I mean, this just highlights the fact that we need to be making those important investments in vote by mail, whether or not I like it or not. Whether or not I think it's something that's an effective way to get votes is, not in question. The reality is that Democrats have been playing the game. It's time for us to be playing the game. And I've been talking just from a cultural perspective at the top of the leadership in a lot of these counties, their GOP organizations, those chairs, and the state GOP chair. We've been seeing a lot of people, like you just said, they're not taking responsibility when things go bad. They only take responsibility for things that go well, and they're not doing anything about it, right? And we need to start changing the culture of the New Jersey GOP to be focused on accountability, be focused on pragmatism, because that's ultimately that's going to get us votes at the end of the day.
And Jeremy, real quick, I mean, I'll let you finish, but the local races you mentioned that I was very happy about, Paramus, Bogota, a lot of Board of Ed races. It's funny because none of them happened because of some magical wand of work and effort by the NJGOP. That was all a grassroots effort. That's all Moms for Liberty. Those great chapters, like in Bergen County. Shout out to Alexandra Bauer, a good friend of the show here, as well as the New Jersey Project, as well as Arise New Jersey. Like these grassroots organizations that were working with parents and local municipal candidates to get elected. It's not like the NJGOP did anything to help, Paramus go red or the mayor of Bogota win. I mean, no, it's funny to me how they pick and choose their battles. And let me just add this too. What I think is really laughable, and I'm not sure if I'll see you there, but coming up next month in the first weekend of March is the New Jersey Republican Party Leadership Summit in Atlantic City. Why is it called leadership? There's no leadership. Like, so to me, it's like, and I actually emailed this and I'm still waiting a response. Like, why are you branding something as a leadership summit when there's no leadership? You keep losing elections. It's like watching the Eagles in a clutch game. You know what I'm saying? It's like, why are you branding this as a leadership summit? Sure, you can get speakers to come in and talk about, let's get Republicans fired up. Jeremy, the NJGOP isn't doing anything at a state level. And I think that one of the casualties too, and again, you can tell me if I'm wrong, is that they don't help college Republican chapters in New Jersey either. Case in point, again, I don't know, again, you're the chair. You can tell me the extent of whether you're getting assistance or not, or any sort of, feedback or outreach, but college Republican chairs like yourself have to be super frustrated too, that the state Republican Party, I don't think, is working hand in hand with college Republicans.
I mean, it's definitely disappointing, right? But to be honest, college Republicans have been very disorganized after a think 2020, 2021 incident. So since then, it's been really tough to organize, both especially at a national level, but even at a state level as well. But we've been slowly building up those building blocks towards actually putting together a coalition for making sure that we're going to get out the vote at the end of the day and being a part of the grassroots movements of all those different organizations that you also mentioned. But, for me, I'd really like to see more leadership. And I think, from the standpoint of New Jersey Republicans, I have no idea why they call it that either. But, I guess they call it that for whatever decorum it is. But I guess, for me, really the big issue is, when are New Jersey Republicans going to recognize and wake up and actually, like you just said, just play the game at the end of the day, instead of just, poking their head in a hole and only moving the head out of the hole like like an ostrich if something goes well, right? You need to be there for the bad times and the good times. Right now we're in the bad times, and we need leadership at the top to take accountability and recognize that there's an issue and that we need to do something differently as a state party.
Bravo, brother. You said it perfectly. Before I let you go, though, Jeremy, I think back to my days at Rutgers in New Brunswick, obviously being part of the Rutgers College Republicans. When I graduated, certainly I remained a conservative. I got heavily involved with the Young Republicans, and certainly I was a chapter chair here in Hudson County for a good amount of terms. And I remember I served on the New Jersey Young Republican Federation Executive Board. So I've always been a conservative for the better part of my adult life. Is that something that interests you once you graduate from Rutgers and still being involved again along the capacity of, let's say, a young Republican, or are you interested in running for office? Like, what do you want to share about the future plans of Jeremy Lee?
Well, I definitely want to be involved in politics. Where I see myself, maybe in a day job is completely different. But I do see myself, being a grassroots activist, going, knocking the doors, getting the petitions signed. I'm part of the county committee, so I do get to vote in these committees that are really important for, choosing who gets to get the quote unquote, organizational line for a primary ballot. But I'm also involved very deeply with the Somerset County YRs. And I'm involved in a lot of different organizations politically. And it's definitely my intention to stay involved just as much as you are, or hopefully as much or more than, the average person. And, I do look forward to, really being involved in politics. I mean, for me, it's not just like a college thing. This is a long-term thing. This is, really where I do see myself, long-term. So.
I love to hear that. And since you brought up the line, I know I wanted to sort of end it with that, but you brought up the line, and it's interesting how that, again, New Jersey is the only state in the country that still engages in this practice, and it's come under heavy scrutiny from not just Democrats. Obviously, we're seeing that right during the Senate race right now to possibly replace Senator Menendez in the United States Senate, but we're also seeing it from Republicans, right? We're seeing that, a lot of these county conventions people feel aren't fair, and it's not what happens in other states. I mean, obviously, you want to as fair a process as humanly possible during, a primary season. And we're not seeing that. Listen, whatever Dems are doing, that's their business. But along Republican lines, and something that really concerns me, and I'm looking at it presently, and I'm trying to organize a debate with the thus far declared Republican candidates for the U.S. Senate, but it just seems like whether it's Alex Sedan, whether it's Greg Mealy, whether it's others that are, out there going to county conventions, trying to get, the line. I mean, it just seems to be a really unfair process. And this is probably one dynamic where Republicans and Democrats can actually agree upon here in New Jersey, where maybe it is an antiquated concept. Maybe it's something that has to be done away with. We know it's held up in court right now. We don't know when that will ever be decided, if ever. But we look at the line as such a polarizing term because, let's be fair, in New Jersey politics, if you're a candidate on the line, your chances of getting elected, whether it's at a municipal level, whether it's county commissioner, whether it's, take your pick, in the legislature, for governor, for U.S. Senate, for the House of Representatives, if you're on the line, man or woman is going to have an enormous advantage. And I think a lot of people want the process to be fair. But realistically, can it ever really be fair?
So I guess we have to, first of all, figure out why we have the line in the first place. And it really comes from just a general electorate being satisfactory with the political processes we have. We're not really knowing that a line in the first place exists. I didn't really know it existed until relatively recently, when I've been involved in politics over the last several years. If you asked me if I was a freshman in high school. I have no idea what you're talking about if you said the line, right? But I think a lot of complacency from the general public, along with, mostly this big issue has only really been an issue among people that are very politically active, has been a big reason why we haven't really seen any progress in removal of the line. Some people really argue on the basis of, well, we can prevent some really crazy people like George Santos from being chosen as a Republican Party nominee, right? Someone who might be, an LGBTQ Brazilian drag queen. Those people probably can't get the line in the first place, right? You can kind of make that argument that that's what the line protects you against. But the line also protects you against people that are just everyday people that want to run for office, right? That aren't political insiders. So I think that what it's really going to take to remove the line potentially is just like more public knowledge and then public outrage over the fact that there's a small group of individuals on the county committees that get to choose these people. And if you're one of those people that's outraged, I think it's just great if you ran for county committee in the first place and actually made your voice heard. But I don't see it really going away anytime soon if we continue to see public complacency with the system we have in place right now.
Well said there, man. And I got to tell you, it's I don't know the status of the court case right now, but I'm sure it's something, that verdict is certainly one that I think both Republicans and Democrats are eagerly awaiting to see if it is done away. Again, we're the only state in the country, leave it to New Jersey, right? The only state in the country where you still cannot pump your own gas. And it seems like you still can't have maybe sort of a fair primary process, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat in New Jersey. So go figure, man. Jeremy, real quick here, any social media handles, website information for anyone interested in whether you're on campus right now watching or just interested in supporting the Rutgers College Republicans?
Well, we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter. The Rutgers CRs is basically how you can search us up. We're relatively easy to search up. I've tried it before, just like out of nowhere. You can easily find our information, and you can also find our information if you search up just Rutgers College Republicans online, and you'll be able to find a lot of information, pretty much the same information that you have. So we're really, I consider myself to be a readily available person. You can absolutely find, information there, emails, and, I'd be happy to reach out if anyone's interested in being involved.
Again, Jeremy, when we think about the struggles that Republicans have, whether it's during high school, college, or afterwards, being a conservative is tough, but, we're on the right side of issues. And we're seeing that now more than ever, not just a national level, but on a state level as well. So keep up the good work. If you ever need a speaker, I've spoken at many college Republican chapters across the state. So if you ever need a reputable and credible journalist, not like some of these ham and eggers out there that, are working in establishment media, let me know. I never need a reason to visit New Brunswick. Let me tell you, I love my alma mater. Love to visit there. We'll keep in touch, man. But I appreciate coming on, and certainly do share the episode. And I appreciate being a fan of the show, and obviously also a fan of Real Talk right here with Jersey First TV. Folks, he is the distinguished chairman of the Rutgers College Republicans, Jeremy Lee, join us here tonight on Jersey First TV. Jeremy, God bless you, brother, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you. God bless you as well.
Have a good day. Take care. Folks, good episode again there with a brilliant young man. Again, a guy with enormous potential, in my opinion, certainly a guy up and coming in Somerset County politics, and a guy that certainly wants to, keep his name in the peripheral. And I think we'll be hearing a lot about Jeremy Lee in the not so distant future, obviously, when he graduates from Rutgers. And certainly, one of the things that I think is interesting is, without a doubt, a guy like him who's committed, who's a conservative, who's on the right side of issues. He's a guy you definitely want to keep an eye out for in New Jersey politics coming up once again, folks, not just in 2024, but for the foreseeable future. Folks, before we call it a night, you know what time it is. It's time for final thoughts. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, I browse the news feed frequently during the week. Things are brought to my attention. I do read a lot of the liberal establishment media. Not that I ever need any help going to sleep, because I'm a pretty sound sleeper. But if I ever need any cure for insomnia, again, take your pick. Insider NJ, NorthJersey.com, the New Jersey Monitor, Political NJ, NJ Spotlight News, the Jersey Journal. Okay. I mean, these sort of left-leaning news sites will always put you to sleep. But you know what's even funny? You know what sometimes even puts you to sleep or even makes you laugh hard? People on social media. And when I think of people who behave badly on social media, I think of four guys that come to mind. And lately, these are guys that have just been insufferable. They've been childish. They've been infantile. I mean, they're certainly not very appealing to look at. Trust me, folks. Faces only mothers could love, I think. But more importantly, and more than anything, grown men who are as salty as like Eagles fans, right? And in many cases, as classless as Eagles fans. And when I think about people who are classless, people lacking decorum, people lacking any sort of, I would argue, poise, being grown men, well, then first what comes to mind, I think, ladies and gentlemen, I think of the Salty Four. I think of Chiquitin, Ernesto Rivera Batiste. I think of Joe Blaitler, now John Hughes, and certainly Leonard Flapowski. Now I'm going to address each of them individually. Okay? But let me start off again with Ernesto Rivera Batiste. Again, affectionately known to many as Chiquitin. The patrolman who could never pass a promotional test. I mean, are you surprised? I mean, folks, have you ever looked at his social media? My godson, who is, I believe, over the age of 10, spells better than this clown. So again, because I'm so gracious and I'm a good Samaritan and I'm a good American, and it's funny because there are things that sometimes make us nervous, right? I know people that are scared of heights. I know people that can't go to Great Adventure and get on those rides. They're death-defying. Or maybe skydive. Maybe people are scared of spiders. Maybe people are scared of, I don't know, sharks in the ocean. Maybe people are scared of, I don't know, germs. But when I think of Ernie Rivera Batiste, the one thing that always comes to mind when it comes to being scared, and folks, wait for it, it's really scary, not for me, but for someone like, Ernie Rivera Batiste, you know what's coming, right? Dun 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 dun. Yes, oh my God. Oh my God. It's a dictionary. Yes. Folks, if you ever want to scare Ernie Rivera Batiste, besides just showing him a mirror, okay? If you ever want to scare Ernie, show him one of these, right? It's called a dictionary. Ernie, maybe you've heard of it, right? You open it. Let me see here. Let me see. Let me just look up a word randomly because so I always like to look at a dictionary. Oh, here's a good word: fool. Oh, to spend time idly or aimlessly. Yeah, that sounds like Ernesto Rivera Batiste. Well, here's another one: to meddle or tamper thoughtlessly or ignorantly. Damn, that sounds like Ernesto Rivera Batiste. Oh, here's a third one: joke. Oh, what else? Oh, here's another word: foolery. A foolish act, utterance or belief, foolish behavior. Wow, I just happened to open this up and wow, first word that comes that I see when I open the dictionary reminds me exactly of Ernie Rivera Batiste. Again, folks, a guy who's, we all know, see, I'm allergic to pollen during hay fever season, right? Like some of us are, right? When the leaves change and spring's coming, hey, I get the runny nose, the itchy eyes, I get congested. I mean, that's my allergy. Pollen is what I'm allergic to. When you look at Ernie Rivera Batiste's social media, clearly we know that Chiquitin is allergic to using one of these. Ernie, again, bro, like, I know you're retired and I know that you're living on a nice pension. And again, it could have been a nicer pension had you actually even passed a promotional exam. But I know that's asking a lot of Ernie Rivera Batiste. Now, if you ask him to read a menu, this will be Ernie all day reading a menu. That's all he's good for. But when it came to ever studying for tests and, passing promotional exams, well, again, folks, as I said earlier, the only A's Ernie ever got on his report card were the ones contained in his name. because you never saw them anywhere else. So Ernie, again, bro, I'm a good Samaritan. If you need one, I'll mail it to you. You know what I'll even do? I'll even email you a digital version on me, okay, as a gesture, because I like to help the mentally, disabled. I'm a guy of charity. I engage in philanthropy. I love to help people in need. Clearly, you're a guy in need. So if you need a dictionary, I'll be more than happy to send you one physically. I can mail it to you if you have a P.O. box, or I can send you one digitally, because God knows que tú lo necesitas. Okay? I get it, man. You're good at reading menus. You should start reading one of these. It wouldn't kill you, man. Maybe all that stuff you're eating, that might kill you too. But intellectually, it wouldn't kill you to pick up a dictionary every now and then, bro. Just saying. But let me move on to Joe Blakeler, another classless clown that we've all come to know. And when we look at back there, that this huge pile of salt, it reminds me of Joe Blakeler, a guy who doesn't live in New Jersey, a guy who, again, and Joe, I'll give you your due. You're retired. You earned your pension. You worked a very dangerous job. And again, I always, and I'm not saying this to be facetious or condescending, I applaud anyone that enters into law enforcement, whether at the municipal level, as a police officer, a sheriff's officer, corrections, state police, even at the federal level. Like, what you're doing is a dangerous job. And I applaud you and I salute you. Okay? But that's where my respect for you ends, Joe. Because what you've done for a better part of more than a decade is show how salty you are. For no reason. You're living on a really nice pension, because if I recall correctly, since you and the rest of the salty four like to publish people's employment or ranks or this or that, like, you were the deputy chief. And for whatever reason, you weren't promoted. Again, we're never going to know. That conversation's between you and the city administration. And at this point, who cares? Okay? Like, we've lived through 3 different presidents since you retired. But you're still bitching and moaning. You're the one sort of pulling the strings, as they say, for all these dimwits that go on your social media. Because we all know, folks, again, let's be honest, if we're taking an educated guess and you look up that awful Facebook group, right? I'm not going to name it because I don't want to give it any credibility. Would it really shock you if we ever come to find out that the URL is under Joe Blakeler's name, or that it originated with him? Okay. I get it, Joe. You didn't get promoted. Life sucks, dude. Okay. I wanted to date a few models that I met during spring break or that I met in Vegas. Didn't work out. I hooked up with some other women. That's life. Okay. I'm not bitching and moaning about it still years later. You're a grown ass man. Okay. You're not a spring chicken anymore, bro. You're like mid to late 70s. Okay. So the idea that this is how you're spending your retirement is pretty sad. The same way that Ernesto Rivera Batiz is spending his retirement too. Now, I get it, Chiquitin's obviously younger than you, right? But he too is demonstrating his lack of awareness by not being able to make better use of his time during retirement. And I get it, dude. Like, the refrigerator's there, Ernie. There's food. You're not going to pass it up. We get all that. And Joe, listen, keep traveling. Keep doing what you're doing. You've earned every dollar of your pension. No one's saying otherwise. But what you're doing now in enabling people like Ernie and John Hughes and Leonard Flapowski and all the other malcontents and imbeciles and derelicts on social media that feel the need to opine about Mayor and State Senator Brian Stack and the administration at 3715 Palisade Avenue. Joe, you're a grown-ass man. You're almost 80. Like, act like it. Okay? Make better use of your time during retirement. Speaking about not making good use of time during retirement, let's look at John Hughes, because it seems like John Hughes wasn't on my radar previously, but now he is, because it seems like John Hughes likes to take little shots at me. Mira, abuelo, I'm going to tell you something, Grandpa. Okay? You seem to be another one, okay, who probably never passed a promotional exam either, like Ernie. And I get it. You earned every dollar of your pension. You're retired. You're living wherever it is you're living. I don't really care. I don't care to know. But John, I don't know what your problem is with me. I don't know you from a hole in the wall. But now you're on my radar, and that's not good. And that's not good. Because if you want me to keep cooking you, I mean, folks, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, let's look at these four right here. Okay. If anything doesn't alarm you right now, I mean, folks, okay, John Hughes is, it's funny for people like John Hughes and Ernie Rivera-Batiz and Joe Blaitler and Leonard Flopowski to make fun of people's appearance when, folks, when you look like this. Hey, John, here's a news flash for you. Come Halloween, bro, you don't need to go to a Halloween store to pick out a mask. Bro, newsflash, you're already born with it. So you don't have to go to any stores and prep for Halloween. You're already rocking it. So for you to take jabs at people online and make subtle little jokes, like, you're not funny. Like, you're just as classless as Ernie and Joe and Leonard. And you're a grown-ass man too. I think, aren't you like 77, 78? Maybe my bad. My apologies. Maybe you're exactly 80. Again, is this how you want to make good use of your time during retirement? Bro, stay in your lane. I never bothered you. Don't bother me. Unless you want me to keep cooking you. Because guess what? To Mr. Hughes, to Mr. Blaitler, and to Mr. Batiz, what comes out of my mouth reaches a hell of a lot more ears and eyes than the three of you combined. And that's a fact, because my metrics are there. And I know you watch the show. I know John does. Okay, among other things like watching my social media. I get it, John. I'm a handsome guy. You want to look at me? Hey, whatever you, hey, listen, you know, have you told your wife you like looking at men's Facebook pages and saving their photos and, you know, maybe cropping stuff? I mean, does your wife know? You know, I mean, I get it. I'm a handsome man. I'm nice to look at. Trust me. You can ask my significant other. Okay. She's pretty hot too. Okay. And I get it. But does your wife know about, you know, you saving men's photos? Like, bro, like, something you want to tell us? You know what I'm saying? Something you want to complain about? It's 2024. It's okay. You know? Not that, you know, to quote the great George Costanza and Jerry Seinfeld, not that there's anything wrong with that. If you want to identify as something, bro, it's okay. Like, we don't judge on this program here. John, just keep my name out of your mouth, bro. I'll continue cooking you the way I cook these other two fools. Speaking of fools, last but not least, let's move on to Leonard Flopowski. I'm not going to call him by his stage name, right? He sounds like a pro wrestler. He's trying to be a pro wrestler. And that's offensive and a disservice to people who actually call themselves professional wrestlers and actually do the work and are actually putting their bodies on the line. Okay. But Leonard Flopowski decided last week to not just go to a commissioner's meeting in Union City and be disruptive. What he decided to do also, okay, was to go to Jersey City. Shout out to John Highness, distinguished editor of the Hudson County View and a member of the Pinnacle, by the way, for his reporting on the story. But Leonard Flopowski decided to go to a town hall hosted by former Governor Jim McGreevey, who coincidentally is running for mayor in Jersey City for 2025. And certainly the first 2 hours of the town hall were very informative. Obviously, Jersey residents had a chance to ask questions of Governor McGreevey as he is seeking the mayoral seat for 2025. But of course, what ends up happening, Leonard Flopowski feels the need to go to this town hall and be disruptive and act like an ass. Now, Leonard, again, tons of people have been doing homework on you, and I don't want to go for low-hanging fruit when it comes to you. And we all know what that is. You know, I don't have to say it out loud. For people who know, you know exactly what I'm referring to. Okay? But Leonard, what exactly are you accomplishing? Now, again, you want to go to commissioner's meeting, which you were solidly embarrassed at. Okay? You made an ass of yourself at the town hall with Governor Jim McGreevey. But what I would argue is the most egregious offense by Leonard Flopowski, right? And the other three fools that I just mentioned before, right? Because they enable Leonard. They'll publish his stuff. They'll publish and reshare, you know, all the other nonsense and all the other theatrics that we see, right, with Leonard Flopowski and the rest of the sort of the salty four. But what's really egregious, Leonard, and this is what really makes you unlikable. You want to have an issue with city government, that's fine. You're entitled to that. When you decide, not once, but twice, to go to the William Musto Center and disrupt weddings for people just looking to celebrate arguably their most important day of their life. Maybe next to the birth of their children, or getting that promotion, or getting a degree, whatever the case may be. Folks, someone's wedding day is arguably one of the most important days of your life. And these are people that in many cases can't afford a big wedding, have to save up just to buy the marriage license at City Hall. And not because it's expensive in Union City. Folks, it's a set price. Okay? It might be around $100, maybe a little bit more, maybe more or less. But the point is that there are working class people, if not poor people, who probably have to take off of work and miss a day of work to feed their families. Okay? Who have to take $100 or so from their savings account to go to City Hall and buy and purchase, obviously, a marriage certificate. And the mayor, in one of his duties as mayor of the city, makes it a point to administer services every Friday or every other Friday. I don't know the schedule exactly. I don't have it in front of me. But the point is that these are the most important days of these couples' lives. And Leonard, you should be ashamed of yourself. Okay? For multiple things. But this is where I think we need to draw the line with Leonard Flapowski. Okay? Some of these are poor, working class families, Hispanic, Black, same sex, whatever you want to call it, who want to get married, who want their sacred day to be special. And what do they get out of it? You decide to leave your house in Connecticut and travel to Union City to be a pest, to be a nuisance, to be a pain in the ass. A joder, eso todo que tú quieras hacer, a joder. Folks, these couples, these individuals on their wedding day deserve better. And I'll give you one more thing, because I said it a couple of weeks ago, and it bears repeating. Okay? Mayor and State Senator Brian Stack is one of the hardest working public officials in not just Hudson County, folks, but in New Jersey. Because here's something maybe you don't know, and I already talked about my own personal example, but I'm going to tell you about other examples that maybe aren't so personal, but they should hit home for all of us. During COVID, during the early stages of COVID, during those first few months, when there were homeless people, right? It was still cold, okay? Or people needing housing or needing some bare essentials during COVID. You know who was up 24/7 working? Brian Stack. The hardworking men and women at City Hall at 3715 Palisade Avenue. All the local commissioners, Commissioner Martinetti, Commissioner Guron, Commissioner Fernandez, Commissioner Valdivia. Again, all the hardworking men and women at City Hall. Idalia Henao, other people, Alex Velasquez. Those are people that were up day and night working with the mayor and state senator to make sure that during COVID, people were getting food, that people were getting housing. Folks, do you think every other mayor in Hudson County was doing that? Spoiler alert, they weren't. Okay? And I'm not going to name them. You know how I feel. By process of elimination, I think we're all smart enough to know. Okay? But while people like Leonard Flapowski and Joe Blaitler and Ernie Rivera Batiz and John Hughes are there bitching and moaning on social media, guess what Brian Stack and everybody at 3715 Palisade Avenue were doing? They were working. So while Ernie was going to the refrigerator to make his sixth sandwich of the evening, Brian, Idalia, Alex, Lucio, Celine, Marjorie, Wendy, and everyone else, again, at 3715 Palisade Avenue were working diligently. They were working diligently. Okay? Working diligently to make sure that people were getting fed, that people were out there freezing during COVID. Okay? Were other mayors doing that? Were people like Joe Blaitler and Ernie who are retired, maybe, were they out there at a soup kitchen or helping distribute essentials? Of course not. Was John Hughes doing that? No, of course not. Was Leonard Flapowski doing that? No, he was too busy being a nuisance in Massachusetts, in Long Island, and now Union City. So, folks, the moral of the story is these four, the salty four, we can't take them seriously. Why anyone would? And again, it's the same 5 or 6 people liking their posts, commenting, opining. Okay. Like, at what point is enough enough? Again, you can argue about municipal government, what you don't like, whatever. But folks, it's absolutely inexcusable to go not once, but twice to marriage ceremonies for regular, everyday people that just want to get married and start a new chapter in their life. And the lasting memory they're going to have, okay, is clowns like Leonard Flapowski and his enablers, John Hughes, Joe Blaitler, and Chiquitin, Ernie Rivera Batiste. You should be ashamed of yourselves. Because not one of you, I'm sure, has even reached out to Leonard saying, hey, Leonard, do me a favor. Dude, tone it down. Okay? You want to go after municipal government? You want to, you want to offer your supposed critique and your investigations? I mean, you're entitled to do that. No one can stop you. But bro, have some awareness. Stop going to people's weddings and disrupting them. They deserve better. Okay? And these 3 idiots behind me just enable Leonard. They enable him again with their infantile and juvenile and adolescent social media posts. And I'm sure they're watching tonight. And I'm sure they'll come up with a little infantile and, adolescent responses to me. And we'll take little jabs at me. And again, see, the difference between me, okay, and these clowns is that the same 4, 5, 6 people will opine on Chiquitin's page. Okay? On Joey Cash's page. On Johnny Photogenic, okay, his page. Okay? On Mr. Flapowski as well. The same 5, 6, 7 people going to opine. But guess what, guys? When I'm cooking you, thousands of people are watching. That's the difference between you and me. So again, in the meantime, to Ernie, mira, comparte uno. Esto cuesta $1. Maybe, well, not with inflation and Joe Biden. It's probably like $129, $135. Oh yeah, yo te lo compro if you can't afford it. I'm assuming maybe all your pension's going to food, right? And to Joe, Joe, come on, bro. You're like 80 years old. Act your age. John Hughes, you're like 79. You're no better. Act your age. And Leonard, bro, have some awareness. Stop pulling stunts like you're doing. Okay? You were very lucky in Jersey City. Keep pulling up those stunts in Greenville and other parts of Jersey City. That's not going to end well for you. I'm telling you right now. I can tell you from locals that said to me, hey, this guy must have a death wish or something, going into Greenville and parts of Jersey City and acting like a fool. That might get him hurt. I'd be careful if I were you, Leonard. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not safe, dude, to be going and disrupting town halls. Like, come on. You should know better. But again, folks, when it comes to knowing better, does it shock you that none of the Salty 4 know any better? It shouldn't shock you at all. Stay tuned. I'm sure they'll have a response. And I'll just sit here looking at my traffic when they have like a few views and I have a few thousand views. Yeah, we're not the same. They're just salty and I'm just great. Again, we're not the same. And that's our show for this week. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank Jeremy Lee, the distinguished president of the Rutgers College Republicans. Certainly, as I mentioned before, folks, check us out on all of our social media. Like us on Facebook, of course, follow us on Instagram and Twitter. And of course, make sure you like us. Of course, follow us on YouTube. And whether you subscribe on Spotify or SoundCloud, download Jersey First TV. Take it with you wherever you can during, and maybe we'll get a snow day tomorrow. Download and keep up to date with everything going on with Jersey First TV. Of course, check us out at jerseyfirst.org/TV. Can't say enough how proud I am to be on the dream team of Garden State Media. That's right, folks. It's Jersey First. Brand new episodes of The Nader Narrative premiere every Thursday, hosted by the incredible Elizabeth Nader. And of course, brand new episodes of Bridging the Gap with AJ Malillo and Steve Romolo premiere every Thursday. And of course, brand new episodes of Bridging the Gap premiere with them as well. And of course, on Mondays, you can tune into the latest edition of Real Talk with Fernando Uribe right here on Jersey First TV. Always remember, folks, if it's unbiased, unfiltered, and unafraid, it's always Real Talk right here with Jersey First TV. I am New Jersey's premier award-winning journalist. Top 50 Latino is voted on by the Latino Spirit online magazine. certainly I'll keep being the weapon of mass disruption in Garden State Media because my level of honesty is necessary in this era of deception. Folks, it's me, Fernando Uribe. Have a great rest of your Monday. Be safe out there tomorrow if it is indeed a snow day. And we'll see you next week here on Jersey First TV. Folks, take care of yourselves. Please party responsibly. And as always, thanks for stopping by.